Good morning, friends. This is Devansh Lakhani from Lakhani Financial Services. Funding is a very critical part for startups, early stage startups to scale up. Generally, look for external investors to raise capital and to scale up their operation. However, one big challenge which entrepreneurs face is to convince the investors to invest in their startup. Now, all the entrepreneurs who are looking for external investments are expected to prepare an excellent and an amazing pitch, which has to go to the investors. However, while making this particular pitch, there are multiple mistakes which the startup founders, especially the first time fundraisers, that make, and that I personally noticed and personally come across when I hear the pitches. So here I would like to list down 7 common mistakes which entrepreneurs can avoid while pitching to the investors. However, before I do that, I would request you to subscribe to my video, click on the notification bell, and be ready for whatever the insights that we are trying to give you on YouTube and on other social media platforms regarding startups and angel investments and business. So the first mistake which every entrepreneur must avoid while pitching to an investor is preparing a too long pitch deck or a PowerPoint presentation. Now this is one of the most important things that founders must be careful about, because they should be knowing that professional investors, whether they are angel investors or venture capital funds, they usually don't have long attention spans, and it can be for any reason. It's not that they don't have time to look into the things or something. It might be for many reasons, like for example, a pitch can also get boring after a certain amount of time or after asking questions and all. So ideally, your pitching session, when you're pitching to an investor, should last around 15 to 18 minutes, and the balance 15 to 18 minutes should be reserved for question and answer session, because Q&A is a session also where investors get a lot of insight into your into your startup, into your business. So guys, you all should avoid this mistake of making too long a pitch and then going on for on and on and on and on in while pitching to the investors. It's always important you all restrict the pitch deck to 12 to 15 slides, so you all can just focus on each slide around 1.5 minutes, which should get the job done, and reserve the balance 15-20 minutes for Q&A session. So the second mistake which every entrepreneur must avoid while pitching to investors is not having a fully supportive and a detailed business plan. Look guys, at the end of the day, whatever you have put in the deck should be wisely as a result of whatever you have also put in the business plan, right? If an entrepreneur does not have a detailed business plan with proper logic, reason and rationale to back up the deck, whatever information you've written in the deck, and if the investor asks questions regarding about the numbers, about financials, about the revenue model, the cost model, the margins, the break-even point, valuation, it is going to be very difficult for an entrepreneur to answer those questions, and it can fall flat on the entrepreneur's face. So business plan will cover all the revenues, the cost structures, the margins, the valuation, the exit policy, completely with proper detailed explanation and assumption. The best deck, guys, will not yield any results unless you can deliver an analytical and a very, very believable kind of a business plan, which will showcase to the investors that this particular business has capacity to grow, and it can make investors a lot of money in the long term. Without actually proving that to the investors, from a particular without having that business plan, it will become very difficult for one to raise capital just by putting some hypothetical assumptions and examples in the pitch deck. So the third mistake which every entrepreneur must avoid while pitching to investors is to create a realistic exit strategy for the investors. Now, an entrepreneur's thinking process is generally, he wants to create a very, very long-term business which will actually, serve him for the long term and, keep him richly employed. Also create a legacy for the entrepreneur's children and their children. But in contrast, the investor's thinking is always that, how can I make a lot of money by investing in this particular business over the next, 5 to 7 to 8 years. This is a clear difference between the two people's, thinking. And most of the entrepreneurs avoid or make this mistake by not addressing this particular main point of the of the investor's investment, is because he wants to exit also at the right time and at the right valuation and take the money home again. So to avoid this particular thing, the entrepreneurs must give a very detailed explanation and a detailed insight into what the exit strategy will be for the entrepreneurs, and this needs to be noted down in the pitch deck also and in the business plan also, because this is very important for investors, as I've mentioned in my previous videos also. Now the exit strategy can be by ways of licensing agreements also to larger companies, or stake sale, or a complete merger, or the company being acquired by any of the larger companies. It need not be only IPO, which is a far distant thing, but there are multiple other things which can which the entrepreneurs can plan in advance, and actually tell that or deliver that to the investors in a very logical and in a practical manner. The fourth mistake which every entrepreneur must avoid while pitching to investors is asking for a non-disclosure agreement. Guys, I know all the entrepreneurs are truly convinced that their idea is the most niche idea that is ever made on planet Earth, and it can create huge wealth for everyone concerned. So they are always concerned that there is a risk of this idea being stolen away by any of the fraudulent or scamster investors. But this is not the case. By thinking in such a manner, entrepreneurs believe that they should go to their most bulletproof document, that is the non-disclosure agreement, and get it signed by their investor. But trust me guys, most of the professional investors, whether they are angels or whether the VCs, they will directly, it's a non-starter for them. They will not even like to go into your 12 slider or a 15 slider PowerPoint or the pitch deck or even the business plan, no matter how detailed or how incredible your business would be or is, and your idea would be such a good one, but once you ask for such a thing, it becomes a really a big negative point. So founders, if you all have done this in the past, or if you all are thinking to do this kind of a stunt, if I may call it, please do not do this. This is really a big negative point for any investors to get started also. The fifth mistake which every entrepreneur must avoid while pitching to any of the investors is discussing valuation too early in the negotiation stage. Now remember guys, a relationship between a couple does not start off with the talks that how much each of them is going to be worth 7 years, 10 years down the line, and what will each of them get if they part ways. In a similar manner, when the relationship between the investor and the entrepreneur should not start or with the talks about what you are going to be worth 5 years down the line or 7 years down the line. That is not supposed to be your first or the second topic that you actually bring about while pitching to the investors. Valuation should always come at the later stage of the negotiation, and it is always better, founders should always remember this, that it is always much more prudent and better that the investors come up with the topic of valuation, that how much are you valuing your company at, or how much stake are you willing to dilute. Because what will happen is this will bring you in the driver's seat, and it will show you the intent of the investor to actually fund you. So wait for that moment guys. Till that time, keep pitching to the investor and answer all his questions and solve all his doubts. So the sixth mistake which every entrepreneur must avoid while pitching to investors is showing no competition or weakness of your particular business. Now guys, this is a you can't show a ultra rosy kind of a picture to your investors, or hide certain facts about your business, that you have no competition or no weakness in your industry or your market. This generally does not happen in any kind of in any kind of an economy, that you wouldn't probably have any weakness or any competition. It shows probably that you are either hiding a fact, or you are lying to them, or you're not you don't want to reveal something that is it might be very discreet or something, but it does not send out a correct picture, is what I am trying to say. So what you need to do is you need to study your whole industry and whole market inside out, so that whatever questions are thrown at you, and whatever, if there is something that you've been missing out in terms of your industry or something, you should be able to answer that, and you should be able to tell that confidently that this is my competition, this is my weakness, and this is what I want to improve on. So this will send a very, very clear and a positive message to the investor that okay, he's aware about all his surrounding competition, all the weakness that he has in his business, and it will help you to actually close that particular investor. The seventh mistake that every entrepreneur must avoid while pitching to investors is giving unclear answers to their questions. It is likely, guys, that you are going to be asked multiple questions from investors before, during, and after the pitch. The last thing that an investor wants to hear is an unclear, confusing, or even a bad answer, because once you have started giving him confusing answers, there's a lot of things that will go on in the investor's mind, that something is missing or something is wrong, either with the founder or with the business. So guys, stay focused while you listen to his question and answer, and think before you start answering or start giving him a reply. Also guys, if you feel that you haven't understood the question, please ask the investor that you haven't understood the question, and would you want to explain him the question, or would you want to repeat it. Trust me, this is not a problem. Everyone is a human, and no one has a problem in actually repeating any kind of a question or explaining the question to the founder. Also, another thing is that if you don't know the answer to the question, this is a very, very big mistake which some of them make in normal life also. Forget about pitching to investors. Is that if you don't know an answer to a question, please tell the investor that, sir, I don't know the answer to this question, give me a couple of days, I will get back to you after I do my thorough research on this particular thing, and after talking to my team or whatever, etc., etc. Don't beat around the bush. This is a really very, very bad and a negative sign. It's a clear sign of you being unconfident, of you being not clear with your business, with your facts, and you are trying to probably confuse the investor by giving him unclear or confusing answers. So don't do that. Always stick to what you know, and do your thorough research before you enter a pitch session or discussing a business plan in detail with the investors. Thank you guys. Guys, if you have really liked this video, I would request you to please subscribe to my channel and click on the notification bell below. We'll make sure we get the best content on startups, on investment, on entrepreneurs, on founders, and on businesses, so that it keeps you always with the most updated knowledge, and what we are also trying to do here with startups, trying to help them, trying to reach out to them. So urge you to do subscribe to my channel, and we'll come back very soon with the next video. Thank you.